Here's what women need to understand about men and their emotions. Men do have emotions. In fact, their emotions are something to be highly honored, highly valued. Um, because when they fall in love with a woman, it is once in a blue moon. When they feel that strong emotional reaction with her, it is something that they become almost very fearful of within themselves. That's why men feel it so much harder and so much deeper when they are going through a nasty divorce with a woman that they committed to, through their emotional reaction with her. They fell in love with her for whatever reason. They feel defeated, could not make the relationship work. And now all of their resources that they have invested into her are all of a sudden gone. So they take a much deeper and harder hit emotionally, financially, in every which way. So their ability to feel emotions is something that is very powerful yet beautiful. But simply, they cannot feel emotions in the same way that us women do. They operate in the left hemisphere of their brain, which is responsible for analytical and logical decision making, problem solving. And us women, we operate more in the right hemisphere, which is more intuitive and creative, emotional thinking. So they will have greater and bigger emotional reactions over big life problems, things that they feel very powerless in solving. And women, we just get emotional over the littlest things. I mean, something in the kitchen breaks and we're having like a full meltdown, breakdown. I mean, I know I definitely have done that multiple times. So, because they have this beautiful talent of detachment from emotions, then we have to understand why keeping that strong polarity in an overall view, like as in most of the time, keeping that strong polarity of women being more of the emotional and men being more of the, as I like to call it, the stump on the oak tree. We have to understand that keeping that strong polarity is ultimately going to help thrive in our relationships. So, penetrating into a man that you love, trying to get him to open up to you about his past, his, internal issues and wounds, because men have wounds too. I mean, we all have childhood issues and things that we deal with. But getting him to open up in that aspect, or even just talk about, his negative feelings about his workday, negative feelings that he's having about his friend or his mother. These things might seem like, well, that's going to be like more intimate and he will get more, you will feel more connected to him because that's like him showing intimacy towards you. But logically thinking ahead, this does not keep sexual attraction. And yes, you can experience the repercussions from them expressing too much of their positive and reaffirming feelings towards you and their lovey-dovey feelings. I know it sounds a bit counterintuitive, and of course, to some extent, women do need reassurance. We all want reassurance and positive words of affirmation, but men are action oriented, and getting them to be too feely and lovey-dovey ends up eventually being a bit of a turnoff. Those more romantic guys that say I love you a lot, or talk about how much you mean to them, or just these men that have a lot more connection to their feelings about you and always want to reassure you. Most of the time it's just because they think that that's what women want. I dated a guy one time who, he was definitely very romantic, and I remember him always talking about how his ex-wife he would get so aggravated because his ex-wife would always try to demand him to say I love you over the phone to her, like when they would hang up, and that she just needed to hear it like 30 times a day. And he would get so aggravated because he's like, why do I need to keep telling you I love you? It just like, it logically doesn't make sense to them, right? Because they're like going to work every day, coming home every night, providing food for the family, shelter for the family. So it just didn't logically make sense to him to tell her that that he loved her all the time. And also it was just like, it was getting him more out of his like masculine, like outer shell frame and masculine armor, and getting him more into his feely with her. So men are action oriented. They show their love through providing and protecting. And again, I say it doesn't mean that we don't ever want to hear positive affirmations or reassurance that they love us and care about us and all of that jazz. But that being too much of that in that feely center, it's going to ultimately screw up the sexual polarity. Men have a very hard time opening themselves up because they are called to be the leaders of not only the wife, but society as a whole. They're called to be the emotional bearers. They're called to be pastors, these sort of self-sacrificing statures of humane people. And so we women tend to feel really connected with other women, specifically when we talk about our feelings. We allow ourselves to dive deep inside of ourselves and go back to our past and just share a lot about who we are. We feel very connected in that way, but men do not feel connected in the same way as we are talking to other women. So it is actually through us feminine beings, that men can feel more connected to their own inner feminine. That's why men really have to trust the woman that they love very highly. They think very highly of her. They have to feel very strongly connected to her, a very strong emotional bond within themselves with her, in order to even express any vulnerable feelings that he is having, in a positive light or in a negative light, because it is something that they have to shut off to the outside world, because again, they are called to be leaders. So I know that we live in a culture that encourages the feminization of our men, and they say, yes, men, you have so many childhood traumas and issues. You need to go to therapy. You need a very good therapist who can help solve your problems, and you can talk all about your feelings with her, and then you can carry that home back onto your partner, all of these negative things that are going on from your past, from your childhood, your father issues. You need to tell all of these deep-rooted issues to your partner. But when a woman is responsible for a man's negative feelings, we women naturally burden the weight of emotions, whether it be from man, child, or another woman. We naturally will burden more of that emotional weight. It's just who we are. It's in our, natural God-given gifts and talents. Naturally, we start to feel very responsible for their negative feelings. And we go into this mothering mode, this mommy mode with our man, who we're supposed to look up to and respect. And this is a big attraction killer. Again, us women, we have this maternal instinct, which is our beautiful gift from God. It is also something to be honored, but within boundaries, within the right context. So when we use that maternal instinct and use it in a way that works against us rather than for us and for the prosperity of our relationships, then we start to experience these snowball effects of just not staying sexually turned on to our partners with all of their negativity and deep-rooted negative issues. I mean, it is such a beautiful thing that men can detach themselves from emotions and completely vow to give up their lives and sacrifice and do the hard, dangerous stuff for women and children like they were called to do by God. It's such a beautiful thing that they have the ability to do that. And in order for them to have that talent, they need 20 to 30 times more testosterone. And they need that that talent of being able to completely detach themselves from emotions. Because in the Bible it says the husband gives up his body to the wife as Christ gave up his to the church. So God himself calls husbands to give themselves up for women and children. So the second thing that women need to understand about men and their emotions is that the more that we get them to talk about their problems and their feelings, their stress hormone levels tend to rise and their problems can feel a bit insurmountable. And men are problem solvers by design. Their brains are hardwired to solve problems. And so when they feel powerless in being able to solve problems, whether it be just their feelings about the day or things that happened in their workday that they can't defeat it, or they just don't know what to do about it, and we keep asking them to talk about it, to let it out, just because that's how we let things out and feel better. It doesn't work for men. They feel more powerless and ultimately defeated. Men can feel very emasculated simply by not being able to take care of things, especially take care of things that greatly have a direct effect on their family. And that's why some men are more, have ability to feel more emasculated than others when they can't solve problems. And this has a lot to do with their body structure. So some men are just naturally more built. They have more muscle mass. There's like a metamorph body type. Anyways, there's certain body types. So these men with the bigger body types, they actually are going to naturally need more testosterone. So with that, these kind of men tend to feel even more emasculated by talking a lot about their problems rather than actually analyzing the situations and doing something about it. I have personally witnessed male figures in my very own life, so many of them, who were feeling very defeated. They didn't feel very sufficient. They had, we're dealing with a lot of job issues, financial issues, not really having stability in their finances and being able to, make a good living and provide for themselves and provide for their family, and just kind of living like very depressed and just in a really dark place. And so then they eventually get back on the horse, get out there, keep a stable job, make a little bit of money in order to take care of not only their house and themselves, but also take care of their family, rather than going to therapy and having to talk about it for 6 months to a year with a therapist constantly and perpetually. They just went out there, solved the problems that they were having, made, a good amount of money in order to comfortably live, and then comfortably be able to give that money to their families and the people that they cared most about. And then if they just do this sort of 360 where all of a sudden they're like a different person. Like they've just grown so much simply by getting out there, solving problems for other people, serving purpose to the world, helping others, communicate, being in community with others, and getting paid for what it is that they do. Their whole just perception of their own life and reality and their whole overall nature has completely done a 360 simply by adjusting those very important aspects of their life. So men don't need to talk about all of their feelings and issues with a therapist for 6 months to a year in the same way that we women do. They just need to get out there and do the damn thing. Build up their testosterone levels, serve purpose to the world, help others, give to others, And this is how they become better masculine leaders, not only of society as a whole, but to their families, masculine husbands and father figures. So if you need any further help on resolving these sort of issues, if you are particularly having these issues in your relationship, then I am more than happy to help you. Just make sure you send me an email or DM, and I will get back to you and you can work with me. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. Make sure you follow me on Facebook Reels, TikTok, subscribe here. If you have any recommendations or questions, you can leave them below. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video and found it to be very helpful. And until the next video, I will see you guys next time. Mwah.